for Hard Talk.
Welcome to Hard Talk. I'm Stephen Sacker. The latest paroxysm of violence between Israelis and Palestinians has conjured up a host of horrifying images. Israelis stabbed in random street attacks. Palestinian suspects shot dead by Israeli police when seemingly no longer a threat. An innocent bystander beaten to death by an incensed Israeli crowd. Well, my guest today is Yאיר Lapid, former minister and leader of the Chatid party. He's called on Israelis to shoot to kill at the first sign of danger. Will that kind of language enhance anyone's security? Yאיר Lapid, welcome to Hard Talk.
Thank you.
For a month or so, Israel, the Palestinian territory, has been gripped by a new surge of violence. And to many people outside, it looks and feels a little bit different, more desperate, more intimate. Does it feel different to you?
Yes, but not for the reason you have mentioned. It feels mainly more religious. This is about Islam and Jews. This is not a national dispute or conflict. These are Islamic assassins who wants to kill Jews because they are Jews. And this is a new combination of self-radicalization of young people coming from social networks, combined with imams talking in mosques about let's go and kill the Jews. The Jews are like pigs and elephants and monkeys, and you have to kill them, you have to stab them. And they have the instruction clips on Facebook telling them how to do so. So this is ISIL-like kind of Islam attacking our people in our streets.
Are you suggesting that the violence coming from the Palestinian side, and that is the random stabbings we've seen, primarily stabbings, are you suggesting it has nothing to do with the realities that Palestinians have to live with?
It's not me that's suggesting it. The Palestinians are. The people, the stabbers, the people who are talking about this, the incitement in the social networks, is talking about religious issues, not the national dispute we have with the Palestinians.
Well, of course, that narrative may suit you, but the Palestinians are quite clear, as Mahmoud Abbas has said it. You know, we are living, he says, under unbearable conditions. And when that is the case, you get the kind of desperation, particularly amongst nihilistic young people who see no future, that results in the violence on your streets.
So what you are saying is that there is a possibility, and you're not the first person in the British media who's saying it, of some sort of a justification for somebody who's trying to stab somebody else in
You use the word justification. I never use that word. I'm simply trying to place what is happening in a context, to try to understand it, maybe to explain it, not to justify it.
But listen, if there was a Muslim madman running the streets of London, trying to stab a British policeman, somebody from the Met Police, on the throat, cut his throat with a knife, and the policeman would have shoot and kill him, would you say, well, you have to understand the difficult kind of living immigrants have in this country? Or would you say, no, he's a madman and we should kill him because this is no way to behave in a civilized country?
Well, it's interesting. You ask me what the response should be. Many different perspectives have come from inside Israel as to what the response should be. The Jerusalem police chief the other day said anyone who stabs Jews or hurts innocent people is due to be killed. When you heard that, did you agree with it?
Do you think the instruction for Met Police here in London is different? If somebody is running towards you with a knife, trying to kill you or kill us pedestrians, kill innocent people around you, I'm sure the British police will shoot to kill in order to prevent him from killing the innocent. Every police in every town, in every place in the civilized world will do exactly the same.
It's a question of the law, isn't it? I mean, in the end, the law governs what is and is not acceptable.
The law in this country as well tells the people here that in order to defend yourself and others, you are entitled to shoot and kill.
You are entitled to use the force that is proportionate at that particular moment. You said, this is what you said just a few days ago, to Israeli citizens. You said, do not hesitate, shoot to kill. As soon as anyone pulls out a screwdriver or a knife or whatever. And you went on to say, that is part of Israeli deterrence.
Yes, people should know.
Who are you to say things like that?
Well, this is nice of you to sit here in this cushy studio in this cushy town, but I'm telling you, these people are Islamic fanatics who are going there to kill Jews because they are Jews. Are we supposed to look at them and say, well, hold on for a second with the stabbing, we want to read you your rights? Israel is a law-abiding country, and if somebody has been stopped already, of course you cannot shoot him. We are against, I also think the kind of lynching that was in Beersheba the other day is forbidden, and of course these people should be go to trial.
Well, let's just be clear about this.
Yes,
are you saying that some of the videos we have seen uploaded onto YouTube and elsewhere of Israeli police appearing to shoot in cold blood young Palestinians who appear to present no real and present threat, are you saying that those must be investigated and the police must be punished?
First of all, no Israeli police is shooting in cold blood. We are not.
Have you seen the video?
Yeah, I saw some video. I saw here in the BBC.
The killing of Fadi
I also saw here in the BBC people who are saying, you know what? There was a headline in the BBC saying a Palestinian was shot dead in Jerusalem, and you failed to mention the fact that this Palestinian was holding a knife trying to kill Jews because they are Jewish. So there is a problem with the kind of covering.
You used the word justification. Are you saying to me that in the case of the young teen, Fadi Alon, who was running toward the police, trying to get away from a mob who were baying for his blood, and when the police apprehended him, he then ended up shot dead. Are you telling me that that was justified?
This is for the proper authorities to investigate, not the BBC, because, by the way, if not for other reasons, we kind of lost faith in the BBC's ability to be objective about this.
Your words, don't hesitate, shoot to kill, they've encouraged vigilantism in your country.
What would be your words if Muslims were not, I don't want to use Muslims, because this is not Islam. This is a very twisted and sick version of fanatism. But if people like this will be running in the streets of London trying to stab children, what would you expect the police to do? Not to shoot.
But the bottom line is, when people are committing crimes, you don't necessarily know whether they're Jewish, whether they're Muslim, whatever they are. Coming back to the words of the police chief, when he says anyone who stabs a Jew is due to be killed. I mean, let's face it, there is serious crime in Israel that doesn't involve Muslims. There are Jews who've been known to stab other Jews. But do you think the police chief would have said of a Jewish criminal that as soon as he commits any sort of crime like that, he is due to be killed?
There is very few people in history who are killing people just for the fun of it.
So I'm telling you, there's a whole wave. Do you not have murders in Israel?
Yeah, we do have murders in Israel.
You do, just
but
as
there's
we do in Britain.
Right now, we have a wave of violence in Israel that is aiming at us. And the only reason is you're questioning me instead of asking the question, why is it people in the 21st century trying to kill Jews just because they're Jewish, is because I'm sitting in this studio and willing to answer the questions.
You have been a minister. You, I believe, are proud that Israel is a country of laws, and you are proud that Israel, as you put it, is a democracy. But many politicians, they have heard the things that you've said. Zippy Livni is one. She said in response, transferring responsibility to the citizenry of Israel, these calls for carrying weapons, they indicate a loss of control by the government, and they will lead to anarchy.
Then I will have to disagree. In this country, in the States, in every other country, when somebody has a license, and there is a due process of how to get a license, not everyone gets license. When somebody has a license to carry weapons, then to tell him, listen, these are very, very dangerous times. People are being stabbed in the street. People they're driving the cars into bus stations in order to kill as many people as possible. So carry your weapon and protect yourself and others by all means.
And when you
seems like a reasonable thing to me.
Did it give you any sort of pause when the young Eritrean man in Beersheba was beaten to death by a mob who thought wrongly that he was involved in the shooting of an Israeli soldier. Did that make you wonder whether your message to the Israeli people was perhaps inflammatory and dangerous?
No. I think these are two very different issues. This is a mob of people who are scared and angry and should be brought to justice.
Politicians like you, very senior politicians, help to establish that fear and anger.
As I was saying, this is so easy to portray this way, but it's not the way it is. These are two very different issues. Issue number one, whether or not the police can or cannot shoot to kill at people who are trying to stab innocent bystanders. B, is lynching prohibited in Israel? Of course it is. Is it wrong? Of course it is. Should those people brought to trial? Of course they are.
Why do you think that, you called it a lynching, that kind of incident can happen in today's Israel? Why is it, do you believe, that some Israelis have dehumanized the other, the Palestinians, to the point where they are prepared to engage in that sort of behavior?
Why is it that you take one incident that is terrible and everyone agrees from top to bottom that is wrong, and saying like it was something that portrays how Israel is these days? It is not. It is one terrible, very wrong incident that has nothing to do with the atmosphere in Israel.
Well, let me then reframe the question and take it in a slightly different direction. You've talked from the very beginning of this interview of what you see as the evil of Muslim Islamic preaching radicalism, radicalizing a generation of Palestinians. What do you think when you hear your own Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, as he did in the last 24 hours, say that the real driving force of the Holocaust, of the creation of the gas chambers, was actually the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem, because it was he who told Hitler that the best way to get rid of the Jews was to burn them?
Well, the Prime Minister was wrong historically. I mean, the historic facts are different. Of course, Hitler would have gone and kill the Jews, whether the Mufti talked to him or not. But there's another interesting point for those of us who are interested in history. The fact of the matter is, the Mufti went to Berlin and met with Hitler and met with Eichmann and talked about the fact that he sees the final solution as the right thing to do, and this is decades before the occupation, before the settlements.
Yad Vashem's chief historian, Dina Parat, has said, you simply cannot say it was the Mufti who gave Hitler the idea to kill or burn the Jews.
As I was saying,
let's get to the point here. He's the Prime Minister of your country, and we are talking about whether politicians are being responsible or whether politicians are inflaming very real hatred. What is your Prime Minister doing today, in your opinion?
Listen, first of all, I know. But I'm not going to sit on foreign soil and criticize my Prime Minister. Even I didn't vote for him. I'm from a different party. I'm part of the opposition. But
you served in his government for a few years.
I served in his government, but now I'm in opposition, and I'm going to run against him in the next election. But I'm not going to sit in foreign soil and speak against him. It's one of those things I'm just not done. But as I was saying, the Prime Minister was wrong historically. And, of course, the only ones to be blamed...
I understand your point about not criticizing on foreign soil, but I think, do you not owe the people of not just Israel, but of the wider world an answer to this question? Is that kind of language used by Israel's leader irresponsible?
I am not, as I was... Listen, Stephen, I've been doing it for very many years, as you know. There's no way of taking me to a corner I don't want to be in. I'm not going to criticize the Prime Minister on foreign soil. I was saying, A, he was wrong. That we can say. It's just not, you know, you have to set the facts right. B, let us remember that the founding father of the Palestinian freedom movement went to visit Hitler to talk to him about what are the best ways to kill Jews long before the settlements, the occupation, the 67 war, and all those things that now people are saying, you see, this is the reason the Palestinians are behaving the way they are. The reason the Palestinians are behaving the way they are is because they want the Jews to be out of Palestine, or what they think is Palestine, or better off, die.
Well, you've made that point several times. Of course, the Palestinian leadership is committed to the search for a two-state solution. They say the problem is that Benjamin Netanyahu and his government have no intention of delivering a two-state solution, and they say Netanyahu's own words prove that, because during the election campaign he made it quite plain under his watch there would be no two-state solution. So let me just develop this with you a little bit.
Yes, but I want not to accept the premise of what you said, because right now the Palestinian leadership, led by Abbas, is not doing what you said they do, because the last thing we heard was President Abbas saying that the Jews cannot, with their filthy feet, go to the Temple Mountain. Is this the kind of vocabulary that you expect from a leader that you're saying is there for the two-state solution? This is anti-Semite lingo.
And believe me, we challenge the Palestinians on the language they use. But right now, today, I want to challenge you on the ideas and the ideology that Israel is pursuing. So let's get back to that, if we may, and we'll be doing interviews with Palestinians. You needn't worry about that. But I want to be clear about this. You say...
Were you? Because I was watching this show, and you know what? It's interesting to me. Whenever there's a Palestinian here, you don't ask the questions that are that difficult.
Well, you haven't been watching the show enough then, because the Palestinians say just the same thing to me that you've said. Oh, you're tougher on me than you are on the other side.
Yes, but I'm right.
Well, and that's what they say too. So we're going around in circles. But let's get back to the point.
Please. You
say that you believe in a two-state solution. Yes. You say it's the only solution. Yes. Why is it then that you say that as far as you're concerned, there's nothing to negotiate about on the issue of Jerusalem? As far as you're concerned, done and dusted, Israel's forever.
Well, it was said before. One of the mistakes that Israel has done more than once in the 11 rounds of bilateral talks we had since the Oslo Accords was letting everyone know where are we going to begin with. We should go into the negotiation when everybody says there's no such thing as a non-starter. And then we can talk. I'm saying Jerusalem is not to be divided, and there will be no right of return. They have different opinions. We will talk about it during the negotiation, but not before. I'm not going to negotiate on British television.
So there is something to be negotiated. You're not saying that Jerusalem has to be the eternal and only capital of the Jewish people and nothing for the Palestinians.
Is London the eternal capital of England and always will be? Or are you willing to divide London and give half of it to the French? Because this is the way I feel about Jerusalem. You know, after the Holocaust, my father was a ghetto child. There was a boat there, and he had to decide where to go. And the reason he came to Israel, he lived all his life in Tel Aviv, I was born in Tel Aviv, but the reason he went to Israel is because of Jerusalem. Jerusalem is the Israeli ethos and the core of the idea
and Jerusalem
that
is
Israel
also
evolved
understood.
from.
And Jerusalem is also the site of the third holiest religious site in all of Islam.
And we should make sure that there's a freedom of religion in Jerusalem for
and
all
the Palestinians
religions.
see what has happened. They see the facts of the last 10 years. Used to be only hundreds of Jews every year would make the ascent up onto the top of the Haram al-Sharif, the noble sanctuary, the Temple Mount, call it what you will. Now it is thousands. They see that the Ministry of Religious Affairs in your government is now offering prayers of service guidance to people for the top of the esplanade. To Palestinians, it looks as though this idea that the government of Israel will guarantee the status quo as was is no longer true.
Are you aware to the fact that Jews are allowed in the Temple Mountain only between 7:30 and 10:30 in the morning, and then once again between 12:30 and 1:30, and they're not allowed to pray there? This is a holy place for Islam, but this is also a holy place for Jews. So it turns out, under Israel, the Jews are the only ones who do not have freedom of religion in the Temple Mountain because they're not allowed to pray there. I accept this. I accept this like the majority of Israelis, including the government.
Of course, there are ministers in the government, in the current government, who don't accept that at all. In fact, there's one minister, the Minister of Agriculture, who said it is time to build the third temple.
Yes, so this is he's a very extreme man. This is his opinion. He doesn't represent...
You condemn the extremism on the other side, and then there are extremists in the Israeli government today.
Yeah, well, there is a difference between somebody who's talking and somebody who's stabbing, and we must be sure that we're making, we remember this difference in all times. Now, the Minister of Agriculture said what he said. I think it's misfortunate, but it didn't cause anything. The official, listen, this is very important for everyone to understand. I'm part of opposition, not the coalition. I'm telling you. I'm telling you.
You have to accept your record. You sat in government with some of these people. You sat with Naftali Bennett, who says that we will never hand back an inch of territory.
And I said, this is what you think. I beg to differ. I think it's different. But let me tell you one thing that is really important right now. I'm telling you, and I'm telling you this as formally as you can, nobody is trying to change the status quo on the Temple Mountain. Nobody. It wasn't changed. The Waqf is there. The Waqf is Jordanian managed. They know the truth. Nobody is trying to change the status quo. And the president has said that, the prime minister has said that, the entire government has said that, and now even the opposition is telling you so. This is one of those terrible incitements that put people out in the street for religious reasons. This is irresponsible, and eventually this is a murderous rumor.
Let's talk about settlements too, because you say what's happening today has nothing to do with facts on the ground, but the Palestinians beg to differ, and they point to the massive growth of settlement activity over the last decade. Now, most of their towns across the West Bank ringed by Jewish settlements. In your view, in all honesty, now that you're not in government but you're in opposition, do you accept that territorial compromise, the two-state solution you want, will have to require hundreds of thousands of Jewish settlers to leave their homes and withdraw? Well,
hundreds of thousands is way exaggerated, but yes. Basically, I've been saying so for even when I was in government. I think it's not in the best interest of Israel to try to absorb 3.5 million Palestinians. I think a separation from the Palestinians is necessary for us as Jews, for maintaining the Jewish character of Israel, for keeping us as a Jewish state. It's necessary, and I think this is where we should go. And I'm telling you again, and you know what? This is part of my agenda.
You served in a government for years which went in the opposite direction, which continued expanding the settlements. Do you now, I mean, this has been a theme throughout this interview. Would you say to me now, you know what, I regret serving Benjamin Netanyahu for so long because he's taken my country in a very dangerous direction? Is that the way you feel today?
This is a nice try of asking the same question from a different angle. And when I was sitting in this government, we were engaged in bilateral talks with the Palestinians. Tzipi Livni was the one, she was at the time the Minister of Justice. She was running these talks. I was part of the negotiation team. We did things that are, to me, are at least regrettable, like setting free for dozens and dozens of the worst killers there are from Israeli prisons in order to maintain this negotiation. And it ended up with President Abbas going to the White House in March 2014, sitting opposite the President Obama, and saying, we are not accepting the Kerry initiative, this is going nowhere, and that was it. And this is after we have forced, I personally, bend the government's arm in order
We can't go through every week and month of your service for Netanyahu, but I want to ask you this now. The Speaker of the Knesset in Israel, Yuli Edelstein, has said that there is a need for a national unity government in this time of crisis. Would you serve under Benjamin Netanyahu again?
No. It's as...
you say what, unilaterally, forever, however deep the crisis develops?
Listen, I can support the government from the outside if necessary on security issues. I disagree with this government's ways. And as I was saying to you, I believe we should go and be proactive in terms of going into a regional summit and trying to push for a regional agreement that will eventually allow us to build a higher wall between us and the Palestinians, have a two-state solution, have a Palestinian state alongside Israel. I think this is crucial for the future of my people, and therefore I cannot go into this government. This doesn't mean we can rewrite history as it really was.
You know what? As you're talking there about your view of the solution, I'm reading something that Amos Oz said recently.
Reading while I'm talking? This is pretty
it's rude, but here's what it is. Just very relevant. He said, unless there are two states, Israel next door to Palestine, and soon there'll only be one state, and it will be an Arab state, because the other option is an Israeli dictatorship.
I tend to agree. And I've been speaking about this in Hebrew, in English. I don't speak any other languages, so otherwise I would have done in Arabic as well, which is a shame I don't speak.
So that is, it's a watershed moment for Israel, and if you get this wrong, the very state its existence is up for grabs.
The thing is, and this is the opening point of everything I have to say. The thing is that sooner or later, if there will be no two-state solution, the Palestinians will come to us and say, okay, we realize you're not going to give us a state. Let us vote. Now, there are two options. A will say no, and then we're not a democracy anymore. B will say yes, and then we're not a Jewish state anymore. So Israel must go to a separation from the Palestinians.
And we have to leave it with that big thought. But Yair Lapid, thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. And try to cover us in a more fair way.
Well, we'll have to have that debate off.